A poor girl used the car window as a mirror. Tio adjust her BRA, and the millionaire fell in love at hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Emma Brooks stood at the corner of a dusty parking lot, her heart racing in her chest. The air was thick with the scent of exhaust fumes as she quickly glanced around, adjusting her second-hand dress, feeling the edges of it tug at her skin. Her worn-out shoes scraped against the pavement as she walked towards her old, beat-up car. It wasn't much, but it was hers. She had always dreamed of something better, of a life where she didn't have to scrape by, just to make it through another month. But for now, she would make do. She slipped into the driver's seat, the leather cracked and faded from years of use. She pulled down the mirror to fix her hair before heading into another long shift at the diner. As she adjusted the rearview mirror, she realized she had forgotten something. She hadn't fixed the straps of her bra that had shifted out of place. The parking lot was quiet, and she was alone, so she didn't think much of it. She quickly adjusted herself, using the reflection in the side window, unaware that someone in a sleek black car was parked just a few spaces away, watching her every move. Liam Parker, a millionaire and tech CEO, had just arrived for a meeting nearby. His black sports car gleamed under the setting sun, its polished surface reflecting the golden light as he made his way into the lot. But as he stepped out of his car, his eyes caught something unexpected. A woman, in a simple dress, sitting in a beat-up old car, adjusting her clothing in a way that made him pause. She didn't seem to notice him, absorbed in the task at hand, and he couldn't help but watch. She was so focused, unaware of the world around her, and there was something incredibly refreshing about that. It was such a contrast to the polished, perfect world he was used to, the one where appearances were everything. For a moment, Liam stood there, rooted to the spot. He hadn't planned to stop, but something about her caught his attention. He didn't recognize her, but there was a vulnerability in the way she carried herself. It was real, raw, and unfiltered. As Emma finished adjusting herself, she finally noticed him standing there. Her cheeks turned red, and she quickly glanced away, embarrassed. "I'm so sorry," she muttered, barely able to meet his gaze. "I didn't mean to," Liam smiled, trying to ease her discomfort. "It's all right. No harm done," he said, his voice calm but with a hint of amusement. He could tell she was flustered. "I didn't mean to stare," he added quickly. Emma nodded, still feeling a bit self-conscious. She gave a small, awkward smile. "I'm just getting ready for work. Long shift ahead." Liam raised an eyebrow, intrigued by her simple explanation. "What kind of work?" he asked casually, leaning against his car. "Waitress," she replied, her voice soft, almost apologetic. "Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills." She shifted nervously in her seat. Liam couldn't help but be struck by how different she seemed from the women he was used to. Most of them would have already been embarrassed by the situation, or would have tried to turn the tables and make him feel awkward. But not her. She was real. She didn't try to hide who she was. He smiled again, the kind of smile that felt genuine, not the polished, practiced one he often wore. "It's honest work," he said. "Nothing wrong with that." Emma nodded, grateful for his kind words. She quickly glanced at the time and realized she was going to be late. "I really should go," she said, giving him a small wave. Liam watched as she pulled away, the hum of her engine fading as she drove off into the distance. For the rest of the day, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He had been surrounded by the same type of people for so long. People who lived their lives behind the masks of wealth and success. But Emma? She was different. He didn't know it yet, but that brief moment would change everything. As he drove to his meeting, he wondered if he would ever see her again. Days passed, and Emma went on with her life, working at the diner, her thoughts occasionally drifting back to that brief moment in the parking lot. She couldn't help but wonder if Liam had really meant what he said, or if it was just another passing moment, like the many others she had experienced in her life. She tried not to dwell on it. After all, there was no reason for someone like him to be interested in someone like her. But the truth was, something about that encounter stayed with her. Every time she walked past a shiny car or saw someone dressed in expensive clothes, her thoughts would flicker to Liam. Was he really a millionaire, or was it just her imagination? Was he just another rich guy who looked down on people like her? Despite her better judgment, Emma couldn't stop thinking about him. She told herself that it didn't matter, that she had bigger things to worry about. But still, the thought lingered. One evening, after finishing her shift at the diner, Emma was walking to her car when she noticed a sleek black sports car parked nearby. Her heart skipped a beat as she realized it was Liam's car. She froze for a moment, not sure what to do. Was he waiting for her? Was he going to ask her why she had run off that day? She took a deep breath and walked towards the car. As she got closer, she saw Liam standing next to it, casually leaning against the door, looking just as handsome as she remembered. He smiled when he saw her, his eyes lighting up with recognition. "Hey," he greeted her warmly. "I was hoping I'd run into you." Emma's heart raced. "I didn't expect to see you again," she replied, trying to sound casual, though she could feel her nerves creeping in. "I know," Liam said with a grin. "I wasn't sure if I'd get the chance. But I've been thinking about you." Emma raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Thinking about me?" "Yeah," Liam continued, his tone more serious now. "I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation. The way you were so real, it's rare to find that. And I wanted to get to know you better." Emma was taken aback. She hadn't expected this. She had assumed that he was just being polite the last time they met, but now he seemed genuinely interested. "Why me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Liam shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe it's because you're different. You didn't try to impress me, or act like someone you're not. And that's refreshing." Emma felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had never really felt seen before, not by anyone who mattered. She had always been the girl who had to work hard for everything, who had to fight for every inch of her life. To have someone like Liam say that, it felt unreal. "I'm just a waitress," she said, her voice quiet. "I don't have anything to offer you." Liam stepped closer, his expression softening. "You have plenty to offer. You just don't see it yet." Emma felt her heart flutter in her chest. She didn't know what to say. She had spent so long feeling invisible, and now, here was this man, this millionaire, telling her that she was worth something. It didn't make sense. "Look," Liam said, breaking the silence. "I'm having dinner with some people tomorrow night. I'd like you to come. It's just a small gathering, but I'd love to have you there." Emma hesitated. She was used to being on the outside, never quite fitting in with the people she worked for or served. But there was something about Liam's invitation that made her want to take the risk. "Okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll come." Liam smiled, clearly pleased. "Great. I'll pick you up at 7. As he walked away, Emma stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Had she really just agreed to go to dinner with Liam Parker? The same Liam Parker who, just days ago, had been a stranger to her? She wasn't sure what this would lead to, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. The evening of the dinner arrived, and Emma found herself standing in front of her modest bathroom mirror, staring at the reflection that had never looked quite so foreign. She had spent the past few hours trying on different outfits, each one feeling too plain, too simple. She couldn't shake the nervous excitement that had been building since Liam had invited her. He had offered to pick her up, but she insisted on driving herself. After all, it didn't feel real yet, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to step into his world, his polished, perfect world. She wore the nicest dress she had, a deep navy blue that hugged her figure in a way she had never dared before, and a pair of modest heels she had bought on sale months ago. She glanced at herself once more before grabbing her purse and heading out the door. As she made her way to her car, the cool evening air bit at her skin, the city lights flickering like little stars in the distance. She felt out of place, like a small part of something much bigger that she couldn't quite understand. When she arrived at the restaurant, a sleek, upscale venue that made her heart race with nerves, she parked a few spaces away from the entrance and took a deep breath. She knew she had to get out of the car and face the night, but for a moment, she just sat there, gathering her thoughts. The restaurant was busy, its windows glowing with golden light, a stark contrast to the dimly lit streets outside. It felt like a different world. As she stepped out of the car, her nerves seemed to amplify with each step toward the entrance. She was almost at the door when Liam appeared, dressed in a sharp black suit that looked as if it had been tailored specifically for him. His dark hair was styled perfectly, and he wore a smile that made her heart flutter unexpectedly. "You made it," he said, his voice smooth, filled with genuine warmth. Emma felt the weight of his gaze, and for a moment, she forgot how to speak. "Of course I did," she said, forcing a smile, her cheeks flushed. "Thank you for inviting me." Liam stepped aside and gestured for her to enter. "It's my pleasure. I'm glad you came." The inside of the restaurant was just as grand as the outside. Soft jazz music played in the background, and the waiters moved with quiet efficiency, their crisp, white uniforms reflecting the elegant atmosphere. Liam led her to a private corner, away from the main crowd, where a few other guests were already seated. Emma felt her palms grow sweaty as she sat down, unsure of how to act. The moment she had been dreading for the past few days had finally arrived. She was about to enter a world she wasn't sure she belonged in. "Don't worry," Liam said, his voice low as he sat across from her. "Everyone here is just here for the food and conversation. No one cares about what you're wearing or who you are. They just want to enjoy the night." Emma nodded, trying to calm the fluttering in her chest. As the evening went on, Emma began to feel more at ease. The conversation flowed easily, and Liam seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say. He asked about her work, her dreams, her life. Things she rarely shared with anyone, let alone someone from a completely different world. She found herself laughing at his jokes and feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time, connection. But then, as the evening wore on, something shifted. One of the guests, a woman with perfectly styled blonde hair and an air of sophistication, looked at Emma with a hint of condescension in her eyes. "So, Emma," the woman said, her tone dripping with insincerity, "what do you do for fun?" Emma froze for a moment, unsure how to respond. She had never felt comfortable in these kinds of situations. Before she could answer, Liam spoke up. "Emma's an artist," he said, his voice firm and clear, surprising both Emma and the woman. "She has big plans. I've seen her sketches." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to say that, let alone defend her in front of people she didn't even know. The woman gave them both a tight-lipped smile, but the tension in the air was palpable. Emma could feel the weight of the world on her shoulders, as if she were being sized up by people who had everything she could only dream of. But in that moment, Liam's words, his quiet support, made her feel like she was worth something, even in a world that seemed so far beyond her reach. As the evening came to an end, Liam walked her to her car. "I hope you had a good time," he said, his voice soft, his hand brushing hers as he handed her a small card with his number on it. "I'd like to see you again." Emma looked at him, her breath caught in her throat. "I'd like that too," she replied, smiling nervously. "Good night, Liam." "Good night, Emma." As she drove home, Emma couldn't stop thinking about the evening. For the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, things were starting to change. The next few weeks were a blur of emotions for Emma. After that dinner, she found herself replaying the evening in her mind, over and over. Liam's words, his kindness, the way he made her feel like she was more than just a waitress. It all felt like a dream she didn't want to wake up from. And yet, a part of her hesitated. She wasn't used to being the center of someone's attention, especially not someone like him. She tried to push those thoughts aside as she focused on her work. But every time her phone buzzed, her heart skipped a beat, hoping it was a message from Liam. And then, one morning, it happened. A message from Liam popped up on her phone screen. "I've got an event this weekend, and I'd love for you to join me. It's a charity gala. I know it's a bit fancy, but I promise it will be fun. I'd really like to see you there." Emma stared at the message, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. A charity gala? That sounded like a world she didn't belong in. But then again, she thought, maybe it was time to take a leap. She had spent so much of her life feeling stuck, feeling like she was on the outside looking in. Perhaps this was her chance to experience something different, something more. She replied with a simple message, "I'd love to. Thank you for inviting me." As the night of the gala approached, Emma couldn't help but feel the familiar nerves creeping in. She had never been to an event like this, and she had no idea what to expect. She spent hours getting ready, trying on different dresses, adjusting her hair, and second-guessing every decision. She wanted to look her best, but she also didn't want to lose who she was in the process. She ended up wearing a simple black dress, elegant but understated, paired with heels that were just a little too high for comfort. As she walked into the venue, the lights, the music, and the fancy decor overwhelmed her. It was a completely different world. From the diner she worked at, she felt like she didn't belong. But as soon as she spotted Liam across the room, standing in a sharp suit, his eyes locking with hers, all her worries seemed to fade away. He made his way over to her with a smile that made her heart flutter. "You look stunning," he said, his voice sincere, and Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest. For a moment, it was just the two of them, standing in the middle of the grand ballroom, surrounded by people who seemed so much more at ease in this world than she was. "I'm glad you came," Liam said, his gaze never leaving her. "I know this isn't your scene, but I'm happy you're here." Emma smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. "I'm glad I came too," she said, her voice soft. As the night went on, Emma found herself slowly relaxing. Liam introduced her to a few of his friends, who were kind and welcoming, making her feel like she belonged. The event was filled with laughter, conversation, and the occasional clink of champagne glasses. Emma began to feel like maybe, just maybe, she could get used to this. But just as she was starting to feel comfortable, something happened. A woman, dressed in an extravagant gown, walked up to Liam and gave him a hug, lingering a little too long for Emma's comfort. Emma could see the woman's eyes briefly scanning her, sizing her up, and for a split second, she felt a wave of insecurity wash over her. The woman stepped back and smiled at Emma, but it wasn't a warm smile. "Liam, I didn't know you were bringing a date tonight," she said, her tone cool and dismissive. Liam's expression darkened, and he quickly turned to Emma, sensing her discomfort. "Emma is a friend," he said firmly, his voice carrying the kind of authority that left no room for argument. The woman blinked, surprised by his tone, before nodding curtly and walking away. Emma felt a knot form in her stomach, her mind racing with questions. Who was that woman? What did she mean by a date? She didn't want to make a scene, but she could feel the tension building. She excused herself from Liam's side for a moment, stepping out onto the balcony to get some air. The cool night breeze felt refreshing against her skin, but the weight in her chest didn't lift. She couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong in this world, that she was an outsider. Just as she was about to turn and go back inside, Liam appeared beside her, his presence steady and reassuring. "Hey," he said softly, "I'm sorry about that. I know it was awkward." Emma turned to face him, her heart pounding. "Who was she?" she asked, her voice quiet. Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Her name is Vanessa. She's an old friend, someone from my past." He looked at her, his expression earnest. "I'm not interested in her, Emma. I'm here with you tonight. That's all that matters." Emma felt the tension in her shoulders slowly ease. She hadn't realized how much she had been holding in. "Thank you for saying that," she whispered, her voice barely above the sound of the wind. Liam smiled, his eyes soft. "You don't need to thank me. I like you, Emma. A lot." Emma's heart skipped a beat, and in that moment, everything felt like it was falling into place. Maybe this world, this life, wasn't as far out of reach as she had thought. The weeks that followed were both a whirlwind and a test for Emma. After the charity gala, things between her and Liam seemed to fall into a rhythm. He would call or text her every few days, always asking about her day, always showing interest in what was going on in her life. At first, Emma was hesitant. She had always been cautious, afraid to let anyone get too close. But as the days passed, her walls began to crumble. Liam's kindness, his attention, and his genuine curiosity about her life began to feel like a lifeline. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt seen, not just for the waitress she was, but for the woman she could be. But with that closeness came moments of doubt. She wasn't used to this kind of attention. Liam was a millionaire, a tech mogul with a life of luxury, while she was still working shifts at the diner, trying to make ends meet. Every time they spent time together, she couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong in his world. She didn't know how to navigate the high-end restaurants or the charity events he invited her to. She felt like an imposter, pretending to fit into a life she could never truly be a part of. One night, as she was driving home from yet another dinner with Liam, Emma received a message from him. "Hey, I know it's short notice, but I'm throwing a small dinner party tomorrow night at my place. I'd love for you to join me. It's just a few friends, nothing formal. What do you think?" Emma hesitated. The thought of spending another evening in Liam's world made her stomach churn. She wasn't sure if she could keep up this charade any longer. But then she remembered the way he had looked at her the night of the gala, the way he made her feel. She didn't want to let that go. "I'd love to," she replied, her fingers trembling slightly as she typed the message. The next evening, Emma found herself standing at the door of Liam's penthouse. She had dressed simply, opting for a simple black dress that made her feel both comfortable and elegant. As the elevator doors opened and she stepped inside, she was once again struck by the difference between her life and his. The apartment was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city skyline. The modern furniture, the art on the walls, and the soft glow of the lighting. It was all so different from her small apartment, where the most extravagant thing she owned was a thrifted lamp. Liam greeted her at the door, his smile warm and inviting. "You look amazing," he said, his eyes lingering on her. Emma felt a rush of warmth at his compliment, though she couldn't quite shake the feeling of being out of place. Inside, the dinner party was small but lively. There were a few of Liam's friends, all of them successful in their own right, talking about business deals, travel, and the latest tech innovations. Emma listened, smiling politely, but she felt a little lost in the conversation. She wasn't sure how to contribute, how to fit into their world. But Liam kept her close, making sure she was always included in the conversations, guiding her through the evening. At one point, as the group was discussing a recent business venture, Liam turned to her with a mischievous grin. "Emma's an artist," he said, his voice light. "She's got some incredible sketches. Maybe she'll show us one of these days." Emma's cheeks flushed. "I'm not sure they're gallery-worthy," she said, feeling self-conscious. "But I'd be happy to show you sometime." Liam's friends nodded, genuinely interested, and Emma felt a small sense of pride in the fact that Liam valued her work. As the evening drew to a close, Liam walked her to the door, his hand resting lightly on her back. "Thank you for coming tonight," he said, his voice soft. "I know it can be a bit overwhelming, but you did great." Emma smiled, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. "Thanks for inviting me," she said. "I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did." As she stepped into the elevator to leave, she felt a rush of emotions. She wasn't sure what was happening between her and Liam, but she knew one thing for sure. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was living in a world that wasn't just about surviving, but about thriving. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid to find out. As the weeks went by, Emma found herself becoming more and more comfortable in Liam's world. The dinners, the events, the occasional quiet nights at his penthouse, it all seemed surreal to her. Each time they spent together felt like a step deeper into a life she had never imagined for herself. But while the world around her changed, the doubts in her mind only grew stronger. She had always worked hard for everything, scrapping for every dollar, and suddenly, she was in a world of luxury and ease. She couldn't shake the fear that she would eventually lose herself in this new life, or worse, that Liam would realize she didn't truly belong there. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony of Liam's penthouse, overlooking the glowing city skyline, Liam turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he said, his voice softer than usual. Emma felt her heart skip a beat. She had been thinking about them too, but she didn't know how to voice the questions swirling in her mind. "What do you mean?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam took a deep breath. "I know this isn't easy for you," he said. "I know this life is so different from the one you've known, and I don't want to push you into anything you're not ready for." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Liam, I don't want to hold you back. I'm just not sure if I'm ready for all of this." She gestured around, indicating the luxury of his home, the life he led. "It's all so new to me, and I don't know if I'm the person you think I am." Liam reached out, taking her hand gently in his. "You are exactly the person I think you are," he said. "You're kind, strong, and honest. And that's all that matters to me." Emma's eyes filled with emotion at his words. She had spent so long hiding who she truly was, afraid that if anyone saw the real her, they would walk away. But Liam, this man who had everything, was telling her that she was enough just as she was. "I'm just scared," she whispered. "Scared that one day, you'll look at me and realize I don't belong in your world." Liam smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "Emma, I don't need you to belong to my world. I need you to be you. And I don't want anything to change that." For a moment, they sat there in silence, the city lights casting a soft glow over them. Emma felt something shift inside her, like a weight had been lifted. She realized that she didn't need to change who she was to fit into Liam's world. She didn't have to hide behind insecurities or pretend to be someone else. She just needed to be herself. "Thank you," she said quietly, squeezing his hand. Liam smiled, his eyes soft. "You don't have to thank me. I just want you to be happy." The next few days were filled with a newfound sense of clarity for Emma. She felt more confident in herself and in what she had with Liam. She no longer felt like an outsider in his world, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid of what the future might hold. She knew there were challenges ahead, her insecurities, the differences between their worlds, but for the first time, she felt ready to face them. And when Liam invited her to a weekend getaway, she didn't hesitate. She packed her bags, her heart light, with the promise of new beginnings. As she sat beside him on the private jet, looking out at the vast sky ahead, Emma realized that she wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was someone worthy of love, of happiness, and of the future she was building with Liam. No matter where it led, she was no longer afraid to take the leap. As the days passed, Emma found herself falling deeper into the rhythm of her new life with Liam. Their weekend getaway had been everything she didn't know she needed: quiet, peaceful, and filled with moments of connection that made her realize how far she had come from the uncertainty she had felt before. The trip to the countryside had been a turning point. Liam had taken her to a charming little house by the lake, a place that seemed so different from the sleek, modern world he normally inhabited. It was simple, serene, and for the first time, Emma felt like she could breathe without the weight of expectation hanging over her. They spent the weekend hiking, talking, and enjoying each other's company. There was no pressure, no scrutiny, just the two of them, exploring the beauty of the world around them and each other. But as they returned to the city, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting. She had noticed how much time Liam had spent talking to his business partners and friends, how often his phone buzzed with work. He was always in demand, always surrounded by people who needed his attention. And Emma found herself standing on the sidelines, unsure of where she fit into his world. The doubts she had kept buried deep inside started to resurface. Was this what she wanted? Was she ready to become part of his life completely? Or was she just another distraction from his real world? One evening, as they sat together in his penthouse, the weight of the silence between them felt heavier than usual. Emma watched him as he stared out of the window, his expression thoughtful. She had seen him like this before, but tonight, it felt different. She could feel the distance growing, the space between them widening. "Liam, is everything okay?" she asked, her voice soft. He turned to look at her, his eyes tired. "Yeah, everything's fine. Just work stuff," he said, his tone distant. Emma didn't buy it. She could tell there was more to it than that. "Liam, I don't want to feel like I'm in the way," she said, the words spilling out before she could stop them. "I know you have your work, your responsibilities, and I don't want to be another thing you have to worry about." Liam's eyes softened, and he reached out to take her hand in his. "Emma, you're not in the way. I promise. You're important to me." But his words didn't ease the nagging feeling in Emma's chest. She had been trying so hard to fit into his world, to be the person he wanted her to be, but what if that wasn't enough? What if she wasn't the right person for him? As the days passed, Emma withdrew a little, unsure of how to navigate the growing tension. She spent more time at her apartment, focusing on her art, trying to find some clarity in the quiet of her own space. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that she needed to figure out what she wanted, separate from the life she was building with Liam. She didn't want to lose herself in this relationship, to become someone she wasn't just to keep up with him. And so, she made a decision. She couldn't keep pretending that everything was perfect. She needed to talk to Liam, to lay everything out on the table. One evening, she called him. "Liam, we need to talk," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. When he arrived at her apartment, the tension in the air was thick. They sat down, and Emma took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about what this is," she began, her heart pounding in her chest. "And I think I need to step back for a little while. I need to figure out who I am outside of everything that's been happening between us." Liam's face softened, and he reached out to touch her arm gently. "Emma, I don't want to lose you, but I understand that you need space. Just know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Emma nodded, a small, bittersweet smile tugging at her lips. "I need to do this for me. But I promise, I'm not giving up on us. I need time. Liam held her gaze for a moment before nodding. I understand, he said quietly. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. The words felt like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders, but they also felt like a turning point. Emma knew that this moment, this decision, would shape the rest of their relationship. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she felt like she was taking control of her own life again. And that, in itself, was a kind of freedom she had never experienced before. The following weeks were filled with introspection for Emma. She spent the time away from Liam focusing on herself, her art, and the quiet rhythm of her life. The decision to take a step back, while painful, gave her a sense of clarity she hadn't felt in a long time. She was no longer just existing, moving through the motions, but for the first time, she felt like she was truly living. She worked on her sketches, rediscovered her love for painting, and even visited local galleries, something she hadn't done in years. But as much as she enjoyed the peace and the freedom that came with her time alone, the absence of Liam in her life felt increasingly heavy. His messages were kind but distant, his phone calls short, and the connection between them seemed to fade. Emma couldn't help but feel the growing distance, even though she had asked for it. Despite her desire for space, she missed him more than she had anticipated. One evening, as she sat by the window in her apartment, staring out at the city skyline, her phone buzzed with a message from Liam. It was simple, but the words struck her heart deeply. I miss you. The message left her frozen for a moment. She hadn't expected it, but it made her realize just how much she had missed him too. She had spent so much time questioning whether they were right for each other. But the truth was, she couldn't ignore the feelings that had only grown stronger in the time apart. The next morning, Emma found herself driving to the coffee shop where they had first met, a place that felt like the beginning of something new. As she walked in, her heart skipped a beat when she saw Liam sitting at a table by the window. He looked the same, polished, calm, but there was something different in his eyes. He stood when he saw her, a warm, almost relieved smile spreading across his face. Hey, he greeted her, his voice soft. I'm glad you came. Emma sat down across from him, unsure of what to say. She had so many questions, but the only thing that felt important in that moment was the fact that he was here. I've missed you, Liam said, his tone sincere. I've had time to think, and I realized that I was afraid of losing you, afraid that you wouldn't be able to fit into my world. Emma listened, her chest tight with emotion. She had been afraid of the same things. I'm sorry for pushing you away, he continued, looking at her with a tenderness that made her heart ache. I didn't mean to make you feel like you didn't belong. You do. You belong with me. And I've come to realize that I don't want to live my life without you in it. Emma felt a rush of emotions, relief, joy, and a little bit of fear. The fear of not being enough, of not being able to live up to the life Liam had. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw the truth in his words. He wasn't asking her to change or become someone else. He was asking her to be herself. I've missed you too, Emma said quietly, her voice trembling. And I've been thinking a lot about us too. About what I want, and what I'm ready for. Liam reached across the table and gently took her hand in his. And what do you want? He asked, his voice full of hope. Emma took a deep breath. I want to be with you. But I also want to make sure I don't lose myself in the process. I don't want to just be part of your world. I want to be a part of our world. Liam smiled, his eyes bright with understanding. I get it. And I want the same thing. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of everything they had shared finally sinking in. Emma knew there would be challenges ahead. There always were when two people came from different worlds. But for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face those challenges. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready to build something with Liam, something real and lasting. And as they left the coffee shop together, hand in hand, Emma knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together. As time passed, Emma and Liam's relationship grew stronger, grounded in a deep mutual respect and understanding. Emma had learned to navigate the world she once felt so alien to, but she did so without losing the core of who she was. Liam never pressured her to change. Instead, he supported her dreams, encouraged her artistic journey, and made her feel as if she was more than enough, just as she was. Together, they built a life that balanced their differences. Liam's world of high-profile meetings and charity galas became something they could share, and Emma's world of quiet art, coffee shops, and simple joys became a space where Liam found peace, away from the chaos of his career. Their days were filled with laughter, shared stories, and quiet moments that meant more than anything money could buy. They even started working on a project together, a charity that Emma had always dreamed of creating, using her artistic skills to help underserved communities. Liam, ever the problem solver, used his resources to bring her vision to life, and together, they made a difference. The project became a symbol of their partnership, a fusion of their worlds, one that reminded them both of the importance of love, kindness, and staying true to themselves. One evening, after a long day of work, they sat on the balcony of Liam's penthouse, the city lights flickering below them. It was a calm, peaceful night. Liam turned to Emma, his eyes warm with affection. "You've changed my life, you know that?" he said softly, his voice filled with sincerity. Emma smiled, her heart swelling at his words. "I think we've changed each other's lives," she replied, squeezing his hand. "I never imagined my life could be like this. But now, I can't imagine it any other way." Liam leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'm glad, because I can't imagine my life without you in it." Emma's breath caught in her throat, and for a moment, everything around them faded away. They were just two people, connected by love, with a future full of possibilities. "I love you," Liam whispered. Emma smiled, her heart overflowing. "I love you too," she said, her voice steady, though her emotions ran deep. They shared a quiet moment together, the weight of their past struggles and doubts dissolving into the stillness of the night. For the first time, Emma felt completely at peace, knowing that the future was not something to fear, but something to embrace. She had found not just love, but a partner who saw her for who she truly was, a man who valued her strength, her dreams, and her heart. And she had learned that love wasn't about fitting into someone else's world. It was about building one together, a world where both of them could thrive, hand in hand, no matter where life took them. And with that, Emma knew this was only the beginning of their story, a story that was still unfolding, full of hope, love, and endless possibilities. Discover a captivating love story in the world of Millionaire stories, where an unexpected encounter between a poor girl and a successful millionaire leads to a journey filled with challenges, self-discovery, and deep connection. In these Millionaire stories, witness how two people from different worlds overcome their insecurities and differences to find true love. As the story unfolds, the girl learns to navigate the world of luxury and wealth, realizing that love is not about fitting in, but about staying true to oneself. These Millionaire stories explore the themes of personal growth, understanding, and the power of connection. As they face their fears and embrace their love, they prove that no matter the background or social status, genuine love can overcome any obstacle. In these Millionaire stories, love is not just about wealth, but about finding someone who values you for who you truly are. With every twist and turn, these Millionaire stories remind us that life is about taking risks, facing fears, and creating a future together. In the end, their journey shows that when two hearts are truly connected, nothing else matters. Dive into this heartwarming narrative, where dreams are realized, fears are conquered, and love blossoms against all odds. This is the perfect example of what makes Millionaire stories so captivating: love that transcends money, status, and expectations.